Let's go ahead and start the meeting 2 minutes earlier than what we usually do. Welcome everyone. It's our fifth cycle, one more set of meetings at the end of the semester. And we have an average size agenda today. So let's go ahead and get through it. Please remember, do the hand raising with the reactions at the bottom so that I can make sure to catches people in order and we can keep things relatively orderly. The first thing I want to do is I'm going to share the screen with the meeting minutes from our February 22nd meeting. Give me 1 second here. Let's see. Sorry, this is the, okay, good. So here's our agenda. Sorry, we're on the meeting minutes, item number 3, which I believe, I'll just open it up here. Okay, so I'm just going to scroll through this. If anybody has any questions or whatever, please say something. Here we go. Went way over last time, 2:30. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and call for I'm sorry, was there a change? I see there's a couple texts in there. Legislative committee. Okay, I'll catch that one. Neil, I got that. All right, so there were a couple minor modifications. The proposal and the promotion procedure is from the legislative committee, and so we'll adjust that. Let's see. Okay, all right, good. So all of those in favor of approving the meeting minutes, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
I'm sure this shouldn't be a problem. I'm going to turn off the sharing because otherwise I can't see everybody. Any opposed so go ahead and lower your hands, and that way you know it's not opposed. And are there any abstentions? So I have the one correction from Neil. So okay, the meeting minutes pass. Thank you very much. Now we'll move on to item number 4, which is the nomination and election of members of the Committee on Committees. And so let me share the screen really quickly again. It's not this. It's these 2 items. So I have the parts of the governance and bylaws that have to do with the Committee on Committees. For those that don't know, I'll just be very brief and explain. The Committee on Committees is a committee of 5 people who assign everyone to the standing committees for next year. So 5 people need to be nominated, which you can self-nominate, and voted onto the committee. If there's more than 5 nominations, of course, we'll have a vote. If there's only 5 nominations, then we can approve it by acclamation. And these members work together to appoint a chair and then assign everybody to standing committees as best as they can according to what people request and balancing things out and so on. Are there any questions about what the Committee on Committees is or what they do before we get started? No, okay, so I'm going to stop the share. So I just need to gather 5 or more names. You can nominate, a friend, not friend, or yourself or something like that. And then of course the person has to be here to accept the nominations. Anybody want to nominate anyone for the Committee on Committees? You can do it in the chat too.
Philip, can I also add that anyone nominated must be a member next year?
Yep.
So if you're a department delegate and your term ends this year and the elections aren't going to be held till, I guess, April, then you can't run.
Right. And if anyone has a question, I have the list up, and I believe I have a most the most recent list of when people are when their terms end and so forth. John McCullough nominates himself and accepts. Awesome, that was easy.
Philip, I'm happy to continue serving if that speeds things along.
Okay. Mm-hmm. That's another self-nomination and self-acceptance. Next, anybody else? It's not that hard of work. I've been on it twice. No, I don't think a non-member is allowed to be nominated. You have to be a member of College Council next year to be nominated. Oh, there's a nomination in the chat here. Let's see. Yes, so Unur Jargo, you have been nominated. Do you accept the nomination?
Oh, I'm not a member next year.
Oh, you're not a member next year, so you can't accept.
I don't think
Sorry
so.
about that.
Thank you.
Henry Afric has nominated himself and I assume accepted. So that's number 3. Perhaps I should write these down. Oh, there's a question. Is there summer work? Did we meet in the summer? I think we might have met in the summer for like an hour. I think that's about it. And we did everything. We were able to do everything online. So it's not extremely time committing, but every time there's additions to the College Council, these people have, or subtractions, there has to be, they have to be assigned to a standing committee. So I'm going to type in the name of everyone we've got so far. One second, sorry. Oops. Okay, so we only have 3 so far, if I'm not mistaken. Have I missed anybody? John, Emery, and Henry. Okay, I'm willing to do it, I guess, so that we can move on to other things. So I'll nominate myself and accept. So that's 4. Just need one more person.
I'm willing to do it. I'm a delegate, and I think my term may end this semester, though, and we haven't had elections yet.
Let me check and see. So you are, let's see. Yeah, your term does end this year, it says.
Okay.
I see another nomination by Professor Aptekar.
Oh, okay, yes. Lucas. Do you accept the nomination?
I assume it'll be me. I guess it's just
yes.
One. Yeah, I will accept it.
Okay, that's 5 then, including myself.
Move to close.
I'm sorry?
Move to close.
Seconded?
Yes.
All those in favor? Okay, so let me just, for completeness, let me put everybody's name in the chat very quickly. So 1 second.
I noticed that everyone that self-nominated also accepted, with the exception of Henry. I just want to make sure, Henry, that you're...
I accepted.
Just implicit.
I'm just going to put everybody's name just to be absolutely sure everyone knows exactly who's in there. So there we go. Those are the 5 candidates that we're voting on. So all of those in favor of those 5 candidates for the Committee on Committees for the next academic year, raise your hand or say aye. Are there any opposed? Nobody opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, looks unanimous. That's the group for next year for the Committee on Committees. Great. Thank you very much, everyone. Okay. So now we'll continue on to agenda item 5, the standing committee chairs. And the first standing committee to present today is curriculum committee. So, let me turn on sharing. Yeah, it's okay. So, Anne-Marie, do you want to go ahead and take the floor?
Sure. Thank you, Philip. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes. Okay.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you. So we have 2 major proposals and 1 resolution to look at today. The first is from Professor Tiao from Career and Technology Teacher Education. The revision 2 version, which is posted to the College Council website and also shared in Philip's folder, is as presented here with the final report. The proposal description for the credit hour change of EDU 3681, 4600, and 4871 is as follows. This proposal rearranges course credit workload amounts to meet new New York State ED requirements for student teaching to be increased from 3 days per week to 5 days per week. This requirement is required to be met by all registered programs to apply candidates who first enroll in a registered program in the fall 2022. For EDU 3681, Internship in Career and Technology Teacher Education, the proposed change involves a change in credits but no change in class hours. The course is currently 2 class hours and is worth 2 academic credits. The change will allow the class to change to 1 class hour and 1 academic credit. The proposed change will allow for 1 additional credit towards full-time teaching. 4600, Professional Development Seminar. The proposed change involves a change in credits, but no change in class hours. This course is now 2 class hours worth 2 academic credits. The change will allow for the change to 1 class hour and the 1 academic credit. The proposed change will allow for 1 additional credit towards full-time teaching. For EDU 4871, Supervised Student Teaching in Career and Technology Education, the proposed change involves a change in credits and fieldwork hours. The course is currently 18 fieldwork hours per week and worth 4 academic credits. The change will allow for the change to 30 fieldwork hours per week and 6 academic credits. So essentially, we're reassigning the credits here. And the rationale is important to the Department of Career and Technology Teacher Education, as it allows us to meet the updated student teaching requirements from the New York State Education Department. In April 2019, the Board of Regents approved the amendments of the regulations of Commissioner of Education relating to student teaching requirements for teaching certification and the registration of teacher preparation programs. The program is working to align itself with these requirements. It was well received at curriculum. No current faults found by the subcommittee, which is led by Professor Filatova and also Professors Bennett and Sanchez Jimenez. Any questions on this proposal?
I don't have a question, just a quick statement. This proposal is purely mechanical to comply with New York State regulations and requirements. It doesn't make any changes to the overall credits or the number of hours. And the only reason really that we've moved it through as a major is because it is a change in degree requirements. And therefore, I'm just laying that out there. We're just doing this to comply with state regulations. And I think Kim is going to correct me about part of what I said.
Thanks, Dean Smith.
I am not going to correct you about part of what you said. I'm just a little bit confused. I thought we were doing 2 conference hours for the courses, but the narrative you read said 1 class hour. But I thought there was no change to class hours. So we've just changed class hours to conference hours. Isn't that correct?
There was a swap. So what we did is we moved from one class, we moved a class hour over, and the other class we moved a lab hour over, so to speak, so that it's still at the same level.
Okay, but isn't it still 2 conference hours is the destination? I thought that had been what was discussed. I'm sorry if I'm just confused.
I may have to defer to Hanji about that.
So the change was made for this. There are 3 courses here. So for the field work, for internship, the change is made from 2 conference hours to 1 conference hours, and then for the seminar, we have to change from 2 conference hours to 1 conference hours. This was made as part of the feedback, in response to the feedback by the committee, where they voiced concern over the fact that we were reducing academic credit without a reduction in academic work. So we made that change in conference hours for the internship and the seminar.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other comments? Questions?
I think we have one. Tanya?
Yeah, I had a question because I know it said no change in credits, but if you go to the first page, the narrative, it did talk about a change in credits. And yeah, look, if you scroll at the very bottom, it says that the change, now this is for the 3rd course, 48, 80, 71. That's what I wanted to say because I didn't. The 3rd course, there is a change in credits on here. Okay. Which it goes from, says 18 field hours, and it changed from 4 to 6 academic credits.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then you'll notice that there is a reduction of two academic credits in the first 2, 1 each. Which
right, I got it. I had to read the whole, right.
Yeah.
Just to clarify, the individual courses are changing credit amounts, but the overall program is not changing credit amounts. That's where we are. Okay.
Basically, we're rearranging deck chairs, but there's still the same number of deck chairs.
Got it.
Just a note, we're going to vote on all 3 at the same time. So we'll go through the 3 proposals and then submit a link for voting.
Great, thank you. So shall I go on to 2109?
Yep.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. And thank you especially to our subcommittee. 2109 from Professor Alatriste, English Composition 1 with support for multilingual writers. Again, this is the R2 version, which has been posted on College Council and shared here with the final report. This proposal is for a new course offering, ENG 1101 ML, English Composition 1 with support for multilingual writers in the Department of English. This course complies with the CUNY OAA mandala to create more pathways into college composition by compressing previously existing upper levels of non-credit ESOL 31 writing and ESOL 32 reading into one course. ENG 1101 ML is fully integrated college composition 1 course with additional 2 hours of language, reading, and writing support. This is the final version of the proposed course to become permanent. This course was run as an experimental pilot course for 3 consecutive semesters, I understand quite successfully, from fall 2020 to fall 2021. Prior to creating the experimental course, students needed to take 2 separate courses, 31W and 32R, before they could qualify for English 1101. With this new course, the students can take a transfer level credit course with 2 additional hours of instruction to help them pass the reading and writing proficiency. This merging will shorten the study time from 2 semesters to 1. It will integrate reading and writing. So this reflects overall institutional goals, streamlines the offering of English courses. No weaknesses found by subcommittee in the proposal as presented here. Very thoroughly supported at curriculum committee. And this was reviewed by our subcommittee led by Professor Scheibel, Professor Zhu, and Professor Ma. I'm sorry, Professor Ma was our subcommittee chair. Any questions on this proposal or comments? Yes.
Just a question, Anne Marie. Could you just clarify how EGN 1101ML differs from English 1101 Co? Don't we have EG 101 Co and that sort of included some of the remediation?
Would Professor Alatriste or Dean Vasquez-Flores, would you like to respond?
I think I can respond.
Okay.
Thank you for your question. That's an important one, and I think it's likely to come up anytime because it is one course. So English 1101 is a regular composition course, Composition 1. What we have done based on CUNY requirements is add 2 co-requisite hours of support. And for native speakers, it's a co-requisite. For non-native speakers, foreign language students, international students, they would have an ML or a multilingual designation. And that co-requisite will have additional language support and help students work further on their language proficiency.
Thank you. Dean Vasquez-Flores?
Sure, thanks. I'd like to add that not only does this course enable our ESOL students to take college level classes all the sooner, but it has exceptional success outcomes thus far with a 95% pass rate. Most of the students who go on to take English Composition 2 get an A in that class. And so I would like to thank Professor Alatriste for developing this excellent course. Thank you.
Thank you.
And this is just informational or clarification request. Once this is in, I think it's laudable. Thank you for all the work. It's so important that we get our students that have deficiencies up to speed. I'm making the assumption once a student is through with this that they can jump right into 1121 with everybody else. And so my question is, I noticed the course number says 1101. And we put the ML designation. They all are equivalent in terms of prerequisites, but is this something that shows up on the transcript that way, or is it just going to show up as 1101?
Hi, David. This is Tasha. It's going to show up with the ML designation as the CO courses do as well.
Great. Does that mean then that as a prerequisite for 1121, we need to say 1101, 1101 ML, and 1101 with the other one we have, or is just the 1101 going to be enough?
Correct. You should designate, yes.
So they should say prerequisite for 1121 is English 1101 or English 1101 ML or the other English, C?
Correct.
Yes, okay, thank you.
Yeah, and just to mention the prerequisite changes that we did last year already did that.
Okay, great. As I said, it was just an informational question for my own. Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification. Professor Bennett?
I just wanted to echo what Dean Vasquez-Flores said. A couple of years ago, I was on a subcommittee for a proposal that was doing similar things. And in addition to its benefits at CUNY, all over the country, this kind of adjustment is benefiting students and enabling students to master the skills more quickly and complete their education. So I want to express my support for it.
Thank you, Professor. Any other comments or questions on this one? Okay. Next, I'll go to the resolution for individualized study. This is revision 1 as posted to the College Council website. Resolution to create individualized study. Whereas City Tech currently utilizes the independent study course, IS 9010 in order to offer required courses with insufficient enrollment, most typically in the foreign languages, COM, new degree program, and TCB programs being phased out, which has the following disadvantages. If the course is a degree requirement, a course substitution is needed, adding to paperwork burden. 2, if the course substitution is not filed, the student's TAP or financial aid eligibility is jeopardized. 3, information on the student's transcript is generic, preventing the student from demonstrating a particular competency to employers, grad schools, etc., making contributory transfer more difficult. Whereas under individualized study, a student can take a course offered at the college on an individualized basis with the following advantages compared to independent study. The actual course name and number appear on the transcript, hence no course substitution is needed, and there are no potential financial aid ramifications. 2, employers, grad schools, and receiving schools upon transfer get a clearer understanding of students' academic record when reviewing a transcript compared to the generic independent study notation. So the individualized study includes the following requirements. The student must meet any additional requirements set by the specific department, including course prerequisites. The student must secure agreement from a full-time faculty member to act as his or her supervisor. And 3, the student must obtain permission from the chairperson and academic dean of the appropriate academic department and school. Additionally, the permission form must be completed by the faculty supervisor and signed by the student, faculty supervisor, chair of the department the course is offered in, and the appropriate academic dean, submitted to the registrar's office by the registration deadline. That form is available on College Council website for you to review. Further, modified course syllabus, including assignments and other forms of evaluation and deadlines, must be attached to the individualized study application. Dates of faculty and student meetings must also be included, with a minimum of 7.5 hours and a maximum of 15 hours spent discussing coursework. The student must meet with the instructor as agreed upon and fulfill all course requirements as stated in the submitted course syllabus and other official college documentation in order to receive a passing letter grade. These courses are recorded and appear on the transcript as the course that they are fulfilling. Faculty members receive 0.5 workload hours for the first student in an individualized study course and 0.25 workload hours for each additional student in the individualized study course. Any questions or comments on this proposed resolution? Yes, Dean Smith?
Yes, hi. I have one comment and one question. So my comment is just to add to point number 3 in terms of the advantages. And I think another thing, it's not explicit here, but it's something I run into all the time, is that when you have the IS 901, there's no indication whatsoever with an IS 901 by itself whether it's a liberal arts course or not. So,
Darn it.
So I think that that's another reason that this is important, because then we can assign it directly and we don't have to sort of hunt around. It could make all the difference. Very often we offer independent studies for that purpose. The student makes only 59 credits and they need 1 more credit of liberal arts. And so we put together an IS 901, which brings me to my question. It appears to me when we go down and talk about the 7 hours and the 15 and the 0.5 workload for the faculty compensation, is that based around a 3 credit course? And what would be the difference in terms of the number of hours for consultation if we had a 1 credit course as opposed to a 4 credit course, which we also have at the college?
Provost Brown, would you like to respond to those questions?
Yes, thank you. Yes, this is based on a 3 credit course. But it's also based on the workload that the faculty member would be getting.
Right. So say that we offered a course that was a 4 credit course. Would any of these numbers change? Or contrary-wise, if we offered a 1 credit course, I would point out Connie.
No, it would not be changing, David, because the faculty member is getting 0.5 workload hours for the first student. Okay. And that translates into that many hours in the semester. So it's actually, I take it back. It's not based on a 3-credit course. It's based on the faculty workload compensation.
Right.
Yeah,
So
could I add to that the expectation of the faculty member doesn't depend on the number of credits. That reflects the expectation of the student to do self-study. So the faculty member meets with the student between half an hour to 1 hour per week, regardless of the credits.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. We might want to be explicit about that, perhaps, just to indicate that this is just to lay it into the document as a friendly amendment that this would be for courses no matter the number of credits that the course is.
Could I say some? Oh, sorry.
No, I'm just saying I'm offering that as a friendly amendment or suggestion.
All right. Well, I'm not. Sorry. I've been getting kicked out of the meeting over and over, and I'm really sorry. It's Anne Delkin. I was wondering if I could say something about this proposal. Yep. So I want to say, yes, in fact, our world languages, and I would really love it if the proposal were amended to say world languages instead of foreign languages. We got rid of foreign maybe 4 years ago now. So I'd be really grateful if that were adjusted. It isn't just our world language classes that we have resorted to running as independent studies, and I'm sure this is going to be similar to other departments. But this option is something that is useful to any new degree program where there are courses for upper level students that need to run and cannot garner enough enrollment for the first few years. So I think that this is going to benefit quite a few more people across campus, especially with the growing number of new degree programs in the works.
Yeah. Thank you. So we will include the friendly amendment on world languages. And Professor Manella?
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just have a question, and I don't have the syllabus available to me. I had an issue where a student took an independent studies course, and all right, granted he was in the military, but about 3 years later, he wanted his grade and never completed anything. Is there any kind of a deadline date anywhere, either in the proposal or in the syllabus? They have to abide by the academic calendar, so I'm sure that they would have to have it in the same time everyone else does, either in March if it's the spring for the fall semester, or October for the spring semester.
Yeah, this is a regular course. You have to finish it by the end of the semester and get a grade. And if you don't, you can get an incomplete, which you have, the standard amount of time to make it up.
That's all I needed to know. Thank you.
Thank you.
I wanted to add, if I may, also further advantage of this proposal is that the amount of time that it takes to get an independent study formalized and on CUNY first has been very problematic for our students. It's hoped that this new option will speed things up so we can get things into position sooner rather than 2 or 3 weeks into a semester. It's also complicated, surprisingly enough, for other sort of strange little administrative issues like multiple positions forms for our faculty members if the independent study course ends up being an extra comp issue. So yeah, I think this is long overdue, and I'm really, really happy to see this. I support it absolutely full-heartedly.
Thank you, Professor Delkin.
I have a question just as a point of clarification. Is it that the course will be able to run as an independent study with the course code and title of the course? Because the reason I ask is because I have done this before, and running it as an independent study, you have to change the title and some of the course content and so forth.
Yeah, this will allow us to run a course that's in our catalog as a subset of independent study. So it's individualized study.
Individualized study. Okay, that's good to know. Thank you.
I think this helps to take away what we're doing with IS 901 because we're diluting the idea of what an independent study really is when we say, oh, the student needs to take this course in order to graduate. We need to do that for the student. But IS 901 is probably the wrong vehicle for that unless the student is actually proposing a real independent study. So I think that this probably benefits the college in ways that aren't explicit in the document and therefore good.
Yeah, I think one of the problems is that the independent study has always had to have a title that actually isn't the name of the course that was originally advertised. So it's just so much worse for getting the credits later, transfer credits, etc., and to get the correspondence between the individual work and the actual course that it's meant to replace.
Yeah, and in fact, it's fairly explicit that you shouldn't be using independent study for something if a course already exists. So,
right. Yeah.
Thank you. I think that it's clear that this is a very positive and necessary resolution. We have a friendly amendment on the table regarding the world language wording. Any other comments or considerations to include? Or can we move to voting for the...
Hello, this is Dr. Sarkar. Could I make a question and comment from RadTech? Since I work with students who have a very broad base and there is a lot of difference among students, decade-long difference, and they have decade-long need. Many of them don't have any option to do master's or graduate study immediately, or they have a need, they need to get prepared. So our bachelor's courses sometimes is not serving that purpose to prepare a student for master's, which is common knowledge, but it does not because of the deficiency of the student or deficiency in the program. It is impossible to serve professional students. As you know, the definition professional means they are constantly growing or decaying. So in that situation, in order to serve a student, to propel the student to graduate study, if 4830, 4217, 3219 is not enough, a catalog description is not enough. A lot of times you have to mix and match 4 or 5 courses into one course, taking a little bit from here and there. So I'm using independent study for that kind of purpose to make a hybrid out of, say, 4 different courses. It is some kind of work, but I happily do it because I'm learning from it and students are learning and they are getting ready. What do you have in mind? Is a single course in the catalog will do my job, or do I have to keep using the independent study as I'm doing now for some students? Again, remember the growth and the decay and the decade-long change. Any suggestion?
If the course you're offering is a course, it has the same learning outcomes and curriculum as a course that's in the catalog, then you would use the course in the catalog. However, if you're creating something different, then it would remain to be an independent study course.
Thank you, Provost Brown.
Yeah, and Subhendra, I would point out that you've used the IS 901 in both ways. So I think what you want to do is think about whether you're just doing, radiologic procedures 2 course or whatever for students that you don't have enough to fill it, or whether it really is a directed study where you're doing something that's separate from and outside of the course you have. We can talk about that offline as well.
Thank you. If there are no other comments, would anyone like to move to put these 2 major proposals in one resolution up for a vote?
The link has already been added up, so there's probably already voting going on.
Wonderful. Then I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the link is in the chat. Maybe you can post it again in case anybody came back in. And so go ahead and vote for all 3 of the proposals at one time, curriculum. Before we go on to legislative, I'd like to make a proposal that Professor Delican was late and she wanted to be on the Committee on Committees, and I'm willing to resign my position and allow her to be on. She's been on it before. If there's no opposition to this, if we can just, does anybody have an opposition to this? Let's ask that first. And if not, can we just have a show of hands vote to swap myself with her for this position? All those in favor, please say aye. Raise your hand. Sorry. If there's any opposed, which I think we kind of talked about there, but if there's any opposed to the vote, please let me know, raise your hand, or if there's any abstentions. I think we overwhelmingly pass. Congratulations. I've got my work cut out for me anyways. Okay, great. Thank you very much, everyone. And so now we'll move on to agenda item 5C, the Legislative Committee. I'll turn it over to you, Professor Koja.
Thank you very much, Philip. So let me share my screen. All right. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So we have one proposal. Resolution on executive search procedures. This is the same proposal that I presented in the previous meeting. We have made a few changes, so I would like to go over these changes, present the resolution again, and we're going to vote for that. So the rationale of this resolution is that most other CUNY colleges have an executive search procedure outlined in their college constitution. Legislative Committee thinks that it is important that City Tech has a similar written procedure for executive searches in our college. One, to have transparency, but also to have formal faculty, student, CLT, HEO participation in such searches. This resolution is not a governance plan change. It's rather a temporary resolution to regulate executive searches, and it can be revised in future if necessary. And I'd like to thank the Legislative Committee members, especially Professor Neil Katz, who led this effort, as well as President Hotzler and other College Council members who shared their comments on earlier versions of this resolution. So let me go over the details, and the changes from last time are highlighted. So this resolution proposes formation of a search committee as follows. The President shall select a search committee of 5 and 6 members for certain administrative positions from among a pool elected by the College Council. The President shall also elect the chair of the search committee. And also, if the President deems certain expertise necessary for a successful search, up to 1 member of the search committee may be appointed by the President from outside the pool. The pool is formed as follows. The pool has up to 31 members, 6 faculty from each of the schools, so up to 18 faculty in total, 2 faculty from the library, 4 members from CLTs, 4 from HEOs, and up to 3 students from 3 schools, so 1 student from each school, and they are voting members. The President may supplement the pool with non-student members if a search committee cannot be fully formed. These positions for the pool are for 2-year term. They are staggered, but there are no term limits. The election of these pool members will be by closed ballot and by majority of those present in the first College Council meeting in the fall semester. The search process is as follows. Before that, the search processes that I'm about to describe shall only apply to searches for vice presidents, those on executive compensation plan reporting directly to the provost, to the academic deans, and to chief librarian. And they do not apply to interim appointments. So the search process is as follows. First of all, search shall be announced to the college in a memo by the president. The search committee shall present, so after the search committee is formed and the interviews take place, the search committee shall present a list between 3 and 5 candidates to the president. The president will, at his or her discretion, either nominate one of the candidates on the list to the CUNY Board of Trustees or ask the search committee to submit another list. And this process continues until the position is filled or within a calendar year, whichever is sooner. And here are some details of how the search committees are formed. So for searches for academic deans, at least 3 members will be from the departments from that school. The majority of the members will have faculty rank. No 2 members will be from the same department, and there will be 1 student member from that school if elected by the student body. The search for chief librarian goes as follows. At least 1 member will be of faculty rank from each school. There will be at least 2 librarians, and again, 1 student member if elected. Searches for provosts or administrators on executive compensation reporting directly to the provost. For these searches, at least 3 members will be from the departments from that school. Majority of the members will have faculty rank. No 2 members will be from the same school, department, or unit. Faculty will have tenure and rank of associate or full professor. Non-faculty will have at least 5 years of continuous service, and there will be one student member. And the search for vice presidents, other than the provost, at least 3 members will be of faculty rank. No 2 members will be from the same school, division, or unit. Faculty will have tenure and rank of associate or full professor. Non-faculty will have at least 5 years of continuous service, and there will be 1 student member. This is the essence of the proposal. So Philip had already sent you the full proposal in his earlier email. You can have a look at that. If you have any questions, I'd like to invite Professor Katz to answer those questions. And thank you very much.
Fionn has her hand up.
May I go ahead and ask
Yes,
a question?
Professor Bennett, yes.
I had raised this last time in terms of the diversity of the committee, and I see that there was some adjustment, I think, in terms of administrative members. But for the provost and vice president to have only faculty of a certain rank making that decision means that you are, and maybe this is the goal, but you are guaranteeing that the majority of the faculty will not include people of color, because it is, so you are literally reproducing all the problems of advancement throughout CUNY, including at City Tech, that prevent faculty of color from rising. And then you're making sure that they don't have, or we don't have, a voice in these senior positions. And if that's the agenda, you're fulfilling it, but I had hoped we had come further than that.
I'll respond to that by saying that that's not the agenda. That's not the effect of this resolution in any way. The reason for having restrictions in rank, which is a standard measure, is so that faculty who are up for tenure, who are untenured, and faculty that have not been promoted to associate professor, are not put in positions where they're under pressure from either administrators or senior faculty about these appointments. And in addition, they can spend their time as they really should, on their scholarship, rather than concentrating on doing too much service, which was the case in this college in the past. But there's another resolution on the table today that has to do with letters, obtaining letters concerning faculty scholarship, and that's a very non-trivial thing that's going to be expected of faculty in the future, and we have to make sure that untenured faculty and faculty going up for promotion have the time to produce scholarship and creative work that is going to make an impression outside of CUNY.
You're wrong that this will not be the effect. It will be the effect. I've seen this. I've seen this over and over again. We have a commitment to diversity at the senior levels. We have some diversity at the lower levels. And in that middle level of faculty, the commitment is lower. And it will ensure that there will be fewer faculty on the committee, faculty of color on the committee, and it will also ensure that there will be fewer faculty of color in those senior administrative positions. There's a difference between intent and effect. It may not be the intent, it will be the effect. And to say that you're trying to protect junior faculty by not giving them the opportunity to serve, they can say no. They can say, I don't have time to do this. But they're the very faculty that will be the most affected by those choices will be excluded. And you will have a predominantly white committee, or the faculty in the committee will be predominantly white, and the people that will be elected to those positions will be predominantly white. And so that's where we are. That's what's going to happen.
Well, if Professor Bennett, if you are in possession of some way to tell the future, I'd be interested.
This is what people of color have observed in universities all over this country for some time. We're not psychics. We have eyes. We know who is being supported and who isn't. And we know what the effects of these kinds of decisions will be. I'm not seeing into the future. I'm seeing a pattern. And it's a disappointing one, but there we are.
I would just like to make a comment as a member of the legislative committee. This was discussed on the committee. We talked about including assistant professors and including assistant professors with tenure. And that conversation was probably about a 30-minute conversation. It was not taken lightly. And Dr. Katz brought up very clearly the historical perspective of CUNY and protection of assistant professors versus putting them in positions where they may feel coerced or uncomfortable because they want to advance. So it was not ignored.
Professor Alatrist, you have your hand raised up. Do you have a question?
Yes, thank you very much. I would just make a couple of comments. Thank you, Neil, for leading this effort. It's a very, very difficult thing to do in any situation, in any organization. Because ultimately, that's always a power struggle, as we know, in work relations, it's a power struggle. And that's always hard. Thank you, Dion, for your comments. I'm aware that, definitely there are persisting issues. And I think that at least at City Tech, based on what I've seen, we're really working hard towards diverse goals. So I think we might be in a slightly better place than Hunter and some other flagships, which is not the point of this conversation, but I just want to point it out that I think our college is really working hard. I think the point of assistant professor is really well taken. I have observed in my years at City Tech instances of coercion recently I became aware of another issue similar to that. Junior faculty are very, very susceptible to various influences. It shouldn't be that way, but academia is a very old institution and it needs to change. But for right now, we can't change it. So we need to make sure that junior faculty, particularly assistant professors, are really protected. They can serve in many different ways, but when it comes to certain positions, they do succumb to outside influences, and that's very troubling. I've seen it. I continue to see it. The same goes with department chairs. Senior faculty have a different standing. They also have a big perspective, lots of experience. So there is something to be said for experience. That's why people need to go through certain stages to understand and have the gestalt, have the perspective. When you're just a starting professor, you simply cannot have that perspective. It's just not possible. So with all due respect, these are things that need to be discussed, and I'm sure there are many different points of view. But I seriously am concerned about assistant professors because they're put in positions that I was put in that position myself when I was assistant professor, and it was a horrific experience. Nobody should be put in a position where the person has to navigate. People should focus on teaching, scholarship, and contributing to the committees where their expertise is. And they shouldn't be put in the balance, to balance the boat and be those people. That's not the way to go forward, I think, for anybody in the future. So I support Neil's decision in this case because it's really a rational decision that many of us have experienced. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Olatrista. It was the legislative committee's decision. Professor Goods?
You're
Hi,
muted.
Neil. Yep, I know. Hi, Neil. I just wanted to say that I can understand why the legislative committee did put, given CUNY's history apparently, but I would say that having the addition of the option of an assistant professor being on and then being able to decline could be of value, because I do see that assistant professors, precisely because they come in from outside sometimes, and maybe they're young, but they have fresh perspectives. And sometimes they have the perspective they've come in, especially in our campus, they come in from the corporate world or somewhere else, and they've had a perspective maybe 15 or 16 years there in their department. And so those perspectives can sometimes be valuable on such a committee like this, because we do hire from people with established careers at City Tech. So, and they do come in with diverse viewpoints. And so I think that could be a value of having an assistant professor on there, however long they've been at City Tech. And so I just throw that out there because I do see that could be an advantage, because you will have people who are further up on the rank that maybe have been here a long time and are solely within CUNY. And so haven't been at other organizations. And I'm not sure, and I have not researched this, but I know what CUNY has done with this in the past with search committees, but what do other institutions do? Do they also limit the ranks? Colleges, I mean, not. Okay. That's all I wanted to say there.
Thank you. Connie? Professor Manila?
You're muted.
I know.
Oh.
Mute. Okay, how's that? Can you hear me?
Perfect.
Okay, I will defer to anyone else who wants to continue the discussion on diversity, because my question is different. So I will hold off if there's anyone else who wants to continue the discussion.
I have a comment, but I'll wait for David.
Okay, then I will put my hand back up and save me for after. Thank you.
Well, I would have to get in line with Connie because I'm actually just looking at some of the verbiage and just had some suggestions. So I also defer.
I'll just say that I am not convinced there are structural inequalities. I don't know why people are patting themselves on the back about diversity. Pat all away. These are structural inequalities. They are going to be reproduced. And if there's not, unless there's a commitment to not reproducing them, and I don't see that in this discussion.
Thank you. Parvana?
Yes, I want to address Professor Bennett's concerns. I think you're absolutely right in the sense that in all levels of our contemporary society, there is tremendous inequalities in terms of participation of non-white, people in this case, our college. But first of all, as Neil says, that is absolutely not the intent. It's not the intent to be behind, working from behind about this issue. The question that I have for you, Professor Bennett, is what is is it the case that assistant professors are more diversely represented at the college at the moment?
That's the case all throughout CUNY. The people are recruited, but they're not promoted or they don't get tenure. I'm on a Black Faculty and Staff Association, and this is something that we talk about all the time. We talk about that fact, and we talk about the fact that at those senior levels, you don't get diversity. And one of the reasons you don't is that you have these senior faculty members, wanting leaders who look like them. And that's who they choose. And that is a problem throughout CUNY. And so the fact that this is done at other CUNY colleges, they're dealing with the same issues doesn't mean that we should keep reproducing them and keep making the same mistakes. But I think there's a commitment to doing that, so it will be done.
There's a commitment in having an integrated committee, right? That's what you mean, yes?
There is not. There is not a commitment.
Professor Bennett, could it be that in the more advanced levels, in the associate level or in the full professor level, we do have representatives of minority groups, minority-majority groups, where they could, volunteer and push for their own inclusion into the, or you could, junior faculty could create this kind of an atmosphere, because I really have to agree with Neil and the other colleague who supported Neil. The fact assistant professors are very, very susceptible, both colored and white assistant professors. They are very susceptible to all kinds of possible inclusions. So I wonder whether we could approach it in that way, because otherwise, I think that yes, granted they're younger and they have more, they might have fresher ideas, but we don't want to go through to ageism either, and among associate and full faculty, there are also those who are still, active cerebrally and otherwise. So I wonder whether we can come up with a solution that does not open the whole pool of assistant professors, because I don't think that's right, but come up with an alternative.
As I put in the chat,
I'm sorry, Professor Bennett.
I thought she was asking me a question.
But there are 3 other people who want to speak and who have not spoken yet, and we need to pay some attention to Robert's Rules of Order.
Speaking of that, this is Philip. I want to ask. It's been set. I proposed and seconded that we extend the meeting 15 more minutes to complete this and hopefully vote. All those in favor, if you raise your hand. Any opposition? Any opposed? And for those that have to go, we understand. You have to go. Okay, so we'll extend until 2:15. So for those that still had their hands up, we can continue the discussion.
Professor Manella.
Okay. Yes, I have a question or for a point of clarification. When you went over the search committee for the provost, you said school. Now, does that school mean the college, or does that school mean the school professional studies, liberal arts and sciences, or tech and design?
The latter.
Okay, thank you.
Dean Smith.
Thank you. Am I unmuted? Okay. Yeah, so I was actually looking at that. Maybe I had misinterpreted. It looked to me like under administrative search for those who who are on the ECPN report directly to the provost, that it said that they needed 3 from the school, not from 3 different schools. So I'm not sure if that was just me misinterpreting, but it does make sense on some level that, I mean, certainly I agree with the deans. Fact that there should be a preponderance of faculty who are representing the school to which the dean will be hired. I will point out that the dean is on the ECPN reports directly to the provost. So if we wanted to be a little more specific, we would fall under that bundle instead of on the first one where you were saying that. So that's just tidiness. But my other question, I noticed that on the pool, there are 4 CLTs and 4 HEOs. HEOs might be difficult because a lot of HEOs live outside of the school, but the bulk of our CLTs do live in the schools. And I'm curious, we had a requirement that we had faculty from all schools. Should we maybe also require that of the 4 CLT representatives that there's a diversity of schools that they report from as well?
Well, probably the CLTs are not equally represented among the schools. I imagine there's more in professional studies and fewer in liberal arts and sciences.
Yeah, there are more in tech and design, and then professional studies, then arts and sciences is probably the order, though there are quite a few CLTs in biology. I think, well, it would make sense to me that if you have a pool of CLTs from which to pick and you are interviewing a dean for a school, that you would want the CLT on that committee to be from the school as well. So that's sort of what my thinking was.
Yes, if there was. So it might also be difficult to get 4 CLTs full stop. Can I go on to Professor McCulloch?
Oh yeah, I just threw that out there. I mean, it's just something I noticed in the description, and I just wanted to lay it in front of you.
Professor Smith, you're right about your first comment. It shouldn't be there. Thank you very much for your attention. So that item is not in the original proposal, and I, by mistake, included it in the presentation, but that's not there.
Yeah, I didn't think I saw it in the proposal, so that's why I was curious.
Yes, that's my mistake. I was just copying it.
Yeah, no issues, no issues. Just a point of clarification.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Professor McCulloch.
Hi, thank you. I think a big point that Dion has raised here is that it's not enough to have just a commitment to diversity and recruitment for a pool of candidates for hires. Once we are committing to hiring people that have not been in the well represented in our institutions before, we also need to be committed to having our institutions change. and actually supporting, our new hires, our new colleagues to have, have a real voice in, changing the overall structures of what's happening at the institution. So there's not a single point of reinforcing or breaking down some of these structural issues. It's lots of little points that need to all work together. So that means support for junior faculty. It means being willing to address these at every level. Looking at this recruitment issue in particular is kind of really stark right now, and I think that we have a potential pitfall ahead of us because the state has committed a huge amount of money, for example, to hiring lecturers. So on the recruitment side of things, this seems like, a good opportunity to recruit a very diverse pool of new young teachers to come in and join the faculty. But because these are lecturer lines, we are in a very real danger of creating a racially segregated permanent underclass of lecturer lines. And if we're not willing to look at the diversity issue, not only in recruitment, but also in retention and promotion, and beyond that first day on the job or that first interview, then we don't have a good long-term plan for diversity. And we should be looking at it at every level, not just at, get people into the interviews, get people in the door, but once they're here, we need to be supporting them and allowing the institution to change to support them, right? And it's not going to be the way it always has been.
Okay, Professor Krim.
Hi. I have two suggestions that might address some of Dion's concerns, possibly, which are quite important. The first is I think it would be worthwhile, if possible, to get the data for specifically for City Tech with regard to what is the status of the relationship between the identity and rank of faculty. So I took a very cursory glance just now through our departments, and from what I haven't looked through all of them, I looked through about half, and for whatever reason, I mean, it seems to be the case that actually people of color seem to have be more likely to actually have higher rank than a lower rank. I mean, why that happens to be the case, I have, sometimes statistical, aberrations happen, right? So maybe this is not the norm, but just that happens to be the case from what I can see. So I think, perhaps it's a good idea to get the data on this, right? So that we know how much of an issue it is. That's my first suggestion, right? I mean, I think that should be possible. Maybe I'm wrong. My second suggestion / question is, if there is sort of a compromise that can be made here, right? Which is that if there is a concern that there is not enough representation on some committee, right? Then perhaps there could be sort of an exception made in those occasions where that happens, right? So in other words, generically, right, we do not perhaps want to have assistant untenured faculty serving on this committee, but perhaps, in certain cases, maybe at least we could consider that, I think perhaps Pravane was also saying something to that effect. I mean, perhaps in those cases where it's really an issue, we can consider having an exception and offer, this position to faculty who are junior faculty, for in order to, alleviate this problem that Dion brings up. I also want to just very quickly comment that the issue that John brings up is much more difficult, I think, to fix. I mean, the tiering between lecturers and adjuncts and permanent faculty, that is going to be a much harder issue to deal with than who is on a committee. I have no suggestions about that. That's really a tough one.
I'm sorry, it's 2:15 and people are starting to leave. We're going to lose a quorum whether we vote or not. Somebody has to move to close the discussion or vote or to table the proposal.
We actually have 14 seconds.
I move to table, not table, to get a vote.
Is there a seconded? Hand raised. So all those in favor of voting, I guess, raise your hand. It's hard to count everyone. Let me see. All those. Any opposed? So you can lower your hands if you were in favor of voting, and raise your hand if you're opposed to voting. 4. Okay, so we will set the vote, and of course that how you voted for that doesn't impact the vote itself.
Did you leave your hand up for the no vote?
I'm sorry?
I think Pavana left her hand up for the second vote.
Okay.
And no, yeah, I moved to go ahead with voting. Yeah, I mean.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the vote, yes, because you were the proposer. So the vote is in the chat. I'm sorry. Vote is in the chat for you to click. And before you leave, I guess we can. We're going to have to, because we're 15 minutes past. Move item 5D and 5E to the next meeting, as well as 6A, which I'll send out an email about. But I'll open up the non-voting issues, which I'm sorry, is the provost and/or president report. I guess provost goes first. Item 7.
Okay. My remarks are going to be very abbreviated, and I'm going to go straight to item number 5 on my list. Congratulations to Pearline Okumakayu, who is going to be our Grand Marshal at graduation this year.
Okay, great, thank you. President Hopsler.
Thank you, Phil.
Good afternoon, everyone. That was an interesting discussion. I don't think we're done with it yet. But quite frankly, I just want to say that from an administrative perspective, the discussion we had just emphasizes not only the importance of what we have as a challenge, but also the difficulty of the search process and coming to fruition with candidates that are going to support and be able to run this institution going forward. It's not an easy task. So one worthy of further discussion. Let me say, we do have graduation this year. It's in person. We sent a note out. It's going to be in Coney Island. People are already asking me for tickets to rides, but that you're going to have to do on your own. The hot dogs are included for faculty and staff, and the amphitheater is a good location. It holds 5,000. We're not quite sure what the interest in attendance will be. There were some surveys with the students, and we think we'll be able to accommodate those people that wish to come. And so we're kind of, looking forward to that. Honors ceremonies will continue and be on campus in our theater. And all of this will be conducted following whatever rules are in place at the time of these events in terms of city, state, federal guidelines, et cetera. With regard to the state budget, I think it's important for people to know. I spoke to the P&B about this at the last meeting, but at this point, the budget for CUNY is exceptional in that it actually increases the amount of support to the university that hasn't happened in a decade. And I don't think it's going to solve all our problems, but it's certainly a big step in the right direction. $50 million to pick up the increase in fringe benefits, about $60 million to pick up the closing of the TAP gap, if you will. And that's the difference between what tuition is and what the state was actually paying us. And again, coming back to that lecturers initiative, approximately another $50 million to cover that. By the way, there is a lot of controversy over that initiative in terms of how it's implemented. There are serious concerns about creating a bifurcation in the instructional staff. And this is something that really has to be taken seriously, not just in terms of the recruitment aspect of it, but how we as an institution assimilate and bring the new faculty, be they assistant professors or lecturers, into the fold and support them in a meaningful way. So this is a continuing discussion and one of significant importance going forward. So on the budget side, that looks like we'll be alive for a while. The other half of that equation, of course, is enrollment and revenue from tuition. And I raise it only because this is a serious concern going forward. We have lost a lot of students. The community colleges have been decimated, and we are missing a population here that we have to go out and aggressively pursue. And that is something that we're gearing up to do here, because I believe there are a lot of students for different reasons that have stepped back from continuing their education. And we're talking about, largely a minority student body, and we cannot let this just fade into the sunset. So it is something very serious and something that we'll be talking more about going forward. I would just say two things. The new entrance is just about done, and we're going to officially open it during spring break. And that's strategic because in case it doesn't work, we won't have a problem of people lining up outside, particularly the students, having a hard time getting in. But we're confident at this point that that's not going to be the case. And we look forward to actually celebrating that new entrance and the opening of the walkway between the buildings and items that, in effect, increase the safety for everyone crossing that street. On a less than happy note, I would just indicate that we did lose a lot of our student government this semester. And that's something, usually there's one or two that for one reason or another may not continue. But we lost the student government president and several of the vice presidents, all of whom, for one reason or another, lost their eligibility. That may have been because they didn't finish classes or GPA or what they ultimately registered for. So at the moment, we are in the process of trying to identify other members of the student body who are senators that could assume some of these positions, and especially with regard to the upcoming graduations and other ceremonies that students normally take the lead on. I'll stop at this point. I know time is moving on. There are other proposals that we'll have to get back to at the next meeting, but if there's any quick questions, I'll try to answer.
How are you?
Well, like all of us, we're surviving, but it is not easy. And I look forward to us returning to normal, whatever that normal is going to be. But we have over 9,000 students that are on the campus this semester. And so far that has gone well. We've had very few cases, periodic problems getting on the campus with Clear 4, which seems to have a mind of its own on occasion. But events are popping up, and we're beginning to have a number of different activities that the students are participating in. And I think tomorrow night, the Humanities Department has set up a wonderful program, Professor Delican and company. So slowly but surely, we will get back to something that better resembles the activity level and the institution we want City Tech to be. Thank you.
Thanks, President Hotz. It's Thursday, actually, not tomorrow. But
yeah, that's right. Well, I'm thinking ahead here, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hoping to see many of you there. Thank you. 5 to 7:45 in the new building.
Professor Getz?
Yeah, I had a question for the president about that, this missing student government positions, because we do have an in-person event for our seniors at ComD this Thursday. Is there going to be like interim elections to fill that gap? Because we have some students, that might be willing to, step up, and we could promote that then.
Well, they have to be students who essentially were elected in the election process last year, but they're not at the upper level. So what happens is we have a number that are vice presidents, and they can move up in rank. And as we speak, I know that the student services people are trying to find who is eligible to fill those roles.
Right. But is there going to be when do the new elections happen? I guess, because it's a good step for are there going to be, elections to fill those spots if some people move up?
Well, they'll be filling the spots for next year, and that election takes place in April. And it's in their bylaws. And I am concerned also, since this student government fell apart, they usually set the stage then to recruit students to participate in the future year. So this may be a little difficult, and the student services people are going to have to make sure that they recruit good students to fill these roles.
Okay. Thanks.
Sure.
Do we send students then that we think would be good? Oh, sorry. I was just going to ask if we should send students that we think could be good leaders because they're already leading in clubs to the student affairs then, or?
Sure. I think that they would be logical to do that. They have to fill out a petition, get some signatures, and they can run for a student government office. We've never had a situation like this before where we lost that many people.
I've never had a pandemic before.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Right. It's one of the consequences of what we've been dealing with.
Yeah. Understood. Thank you.
If I could, sorry. Oh, we're not in good and welfare just yet, really, are we?
Not quite.
No, sorry.
So no other questions for the president? So now we're ended in welfare.
I just wanted to clarify that although President Hotzler gave the Humanities Department credit for the Francophone Festival, there is no way that we would have the live cooking demonstration or the cheese and wine spread, etc., that we will have. And it's not massive, just so people understand. We would not have any of this without the support of the Hospitality Management Department. So big thanks to them as well. Karen Goodlad, Jean-Claude especially. And I've just re-released the poster if anyone's interested.
Yes, so in the chat, there was a lot of good and welfare posted. Anything else that wasn't posted there at all? Okay, well, that puts us to agenda item number 10, adjournment. I guess the meeting is adjourned. Some of this will go on to the next and last set of meetings, which will be May 3rd. So until then, I'll see everyone. Have a good